Okay, we are live. Hey, we don't have an intro for the Millstone Monday, so I don't know, Blake. We'll just make this up. We could use our standard intro. Hey, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. This is Millstone Self-Reliance Group. I'm one of your hosts, Mark. Well, you're watching this over on Centerline, so you already know who I am. Blake, why don't we just turn it over to you? And everybody can see the czar down below. We'll get to him in a couple minutes. Blake, maybe we bring it over to you, and then you just let everybody know kind of what we're talking about tonight. And then we'll go into, because I'll have one piece of housekeeping, then we'll go into that larger picture of what we're trying to accomplish.
Sure. Sounds good. Well, I'm your other co-host, Blake. It's good to see everybody here tonight on this balmy February evening. Yeah, right. Spring sprung basically already.
Yeah, it's like 13 degrees out there, man.
Dude, it's wild, man. I went out with my tank top on earlier today and was still hot. Like it is officially getting warmer out there.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, like I was saying, everybody, welcome tonight. Glad to see you guys all here. This is, as Mark calls it, Millstone Mondays, where tonight we're going to be going over something that we've kind of coined as F-kits. And you can put that in any way you want, whether it's food, firearms,
We'll go over the list.
Yeah, so there's a lot of options there, but that's going to be kind of the thrust of tonight, is going to just kind of be talking about some general preparedness concepts and things like that. As far as what we're doing here.
Hold on real quickly, just so I can come back to Czar Beretta, because this was just unfortunately the appropriate time. I apologize. But F-kit, when Redbeard and I were bullshitting on the phone like a month ago and this whole thing came up, I don't think we really thought about it, but just in the last week, I'm like, F-kit, F it, like, but that'll make a little bit more sense. So just spell it out or think it through. I mean, like, this is not the thing that you want to be effing around and finding out about. So we'll get back to that. I just had to throw it in there, Blake. Sorry.
No, that's good.
No, that's all good by me, man. So, but one of the things we kind of want to touch base here on the front side and just kind of get that, as Mark likes to say, the housekeeping out of the way, and then we'll kind of get into the thrust of the matter for this evening is I know a lot of you guys have seen that we've moved to a monthly basis here on Mondays for talking Millstone concepts and things like that. We're going to continue doing that monthly Monday show discussing stuff, but we're going to be not doing classes for the foreseeable future. We're going to be more talking about general topics, opening up a forum of discussion around things because, quite frankly, and I'm sure it's the same for all of our audience, life's crazy. Life's crazy for me. Life's crazy for Mark. I've got a little one on the way. This is actually the first now public announcement that I've got another little one, I should say, on the way. So, there you go, Czar. I got a second one coming. Another boy. So life is crazy. And I'm shooting them strong seeds, apparently. But
hang on. This is not a Thursday. This is not South After Dark.
All right. Fair enough. But anyway, I was just getting at is
to say by that, then you should drink more if you're going to talk that way. That's all I'm saying.
But we've got a lot of things on our plate, both personal and business related, where we just got to keep our head in the game. We want to keep the lights on. We want to keep having these discussions and everything. Classes, like actual true no crap classes, will come in the future. But right now, we're just all going to keep our nose to the grindstone, keep having these discussions and just kind of let it kind of unfold naturally there. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, one, if you don't mind, Blake didn't say it, but if you can't hear, I mean, again, so everybody, again, this isn't a woe is us. It's the same for all you great men and women too. Life is just life. Blake is coming down, his family's getting over. You can hear it in his voice. So if he starts coughing, if he projectile vomits, then we should applaud it. But if he coughs, we just ignore it, right?
Hopefully the projectile vomiting is behind me, but just so everyone knows, we just had 2 weeks of influenza A at the house, and I had a 9-month-old with 102.8 degrees fever, and it was, well, let's put it this way. It was the first time I didn't just get to go into a coma and get healthy. I had to take care of another living being, so I'm a little rough.
Yeah. While you were rough, right? So anyway, that's our just point, and that's kind of, hopefully that's going to translate a little bit into when we kind of get into the nit and gritty, the meat and potatoes of what we're going to do with the F kits. At the end of the day, I mean, life. Well, there's an F in there somewhere, right? So it's a life kit, right? A life hack. But yeah, we all have a million things going on. I don't have a little one, but I've got all of this, and that is my child, right? That is my creation, my baby, and just like anyone else, I've got to stay focused, eye on the prize. It can, and maybe that's a great way of saying it, Blake. I didn't even think about it right now, because just like life, everything else, it can so easily slip away from you. Take your eye off the prize for a minute, and Mother Nature will let you know who's really in charge.
Mhm.
Or a terrorist will start, driving down a popular street that everybody's having drinks on it, et cetera, et cetera. And everyone always says, oh, that's never going to happen to me. You know what's going to happen to each and every one of us? We're all going to die one day. I hate to say it. So for these F kits, as we kind of get into it, as Millstone, I guess, going forward, hey, just bear with us. We all got a million things just like you guys. We're moving in that direction, but we don't want to, I guess, oversell or missell or misstate. So we don't
want to promise things that,
right.
Bingo.
Yeah, we're just going to take it down a notch until we're all of us in a better place. And hopefully we all are of us in a better place. The economy, the international
world.
security. Yeah. I was just going to say all these other things going on. And hopefully that's the case. I'm on the record of saying, and this fits in with the self-reliance, even with Trump winning, if Trump was your guy, right? If that's you voted, this isn't going to get better overnight. This is going to be, I was saying 6 months. I actually now that I look in a few more things and kind of take another step back, I'm like, there's no way 6 months. This is going to be at least 12 months or longer. I mean, maybe we start there. So that's what we're going to do on the Millstones. We are going to show you some stuff and give you our perspectives based on our experiences, but we're also not, and it's not a Seattle After Dark, but this is a self-reliance. I mean, this Millstone is a self-reliance channel. We're doing it here on Centerline, but it is about self-reliance, right? And so I hope that makes sense. It's not political in nature. It's not like the fun we have on Seattle After Dark, where there might be some political or current events, but that still pertains to what we're ultimately trying to do at Millstone and where we ultimately want to go. Blake, I didn't want to overreach. Does that sound about right, sir?
I think that's in the vein that I'm feeling. It's what we've discussed about. I think it's the right move for everyone to just kind of stay focused on what we have on our own plates at the moment. We don't want to overpromise and not provide. I mean, that's the biggest goal here. We want to be a resource for good information, for thought out information, and to try to be able to help build that digital community so that you can help build your in-person community. And to do that right now in the proper fashion, we just need to stay a little focused on our own individual lives. One of the things I do really want to say though here is, since Gene was so kind to say it, buddy, I really appreciate it.
I was going to read your comment because of that. I didn't know if you.
Yeah, I saw it, and I got to say, I thank you very much, man. It's honestly, being a father so far has been the pride of my life. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me, and the thought of having another little guy on the way is it's pretty darn exciting. So actually, kind of gets you choked up a little bit.
Yeah, well, as well it should. And see, that's because you're not afraid. You don't have an afraid kit. Hey, so before I bring it over to the Czar, who is blessing us with his presence here tonight, if you don't know who Czar Baroda is, you probably haven't watched like the last 2 episodes or been on the group chat. I think the whole Czar Baroda went a little too far in the group chat, but I think we got that back under control. But Czar, if you don't mind, Your Excellency, or however I'm supposed to address you, let me just kind of show some comments. Most of them from Gene. Hey, boys and girls, chime in. Tell us where you're from. Hey, checking in from, behind enemy lines in Minnesota. You don't have to do that. It is a nice little icebreaker. And through that, some people doing that, we've actually had some people that realize they live in the same state, just even a few cities away. That might help you establish a better network and a better community as well. So, I mean, there is that side. I mean, look, if the NSA wants this information, they already got it. So, I mean, let's just not joke about that. Gene, woo. He was giving you shit, Zarbaroda. You didn't even have to phone in tonight to make it on the live stream.
I know.
Zarbaroda phoned his way into a live stream last week. Well, that's what we're saying. And then he's saying fabric kit for me for the F kit. And then we just got that. I wanted to bring that up. Gene was giving you a big, huge congrats from across the pond. We got V-Tech Moonwalker in the house, man. Takes really good photos. Good evening, sir. Nice to see you over here. We see you sometimes, but we know you got a busy schedule too. So all of that commentary we just said, I know that definitely resonates with you as well. DB in the house. No.
DB.
Hey, nice to see you, DB. And you heard it correct. Hey,
You did.
Yeah. He's got another one coming. Got one more coming. Quest views. Woo! That is all. Thank you, Blackbeard. That was very succinct. We really appreciate it that way. We got the Husky Bunch, Northern Minnesota, home of tampon, Timmy, and the commies. All right, I should have read that before I put it up on the ticker, and then
This
read it
could be
out
one of
loud.
those nights.
Oh, it's so true.
But Husky Bunch ain't wrong. So yeah, thank you, Husky Bunch. Gene, from his bedroom on the losing side, there's still hope, my good man. There's always hope. You're never defeated until you say you're defeated. There's always hope. We got Daniel. I haven't seen Daniel before. Thank you, Daniel. Checking in from behind enemy lines in Tacoma, Washington.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that is, we will have to definitely do, like, I don't even know what kind of extract that would be. That would have to be like a major naval incursion to get you off a beachhead. I mean, we could try to do a submarine, or we would have to like spies you out. Like, like you see the guys all connected and there's a rope and then they all fly. We'd have to probably get you out like that, Daniel. It's really seriously. I don't know how else we could get you out. Or I think there's one or two good spy movies where like, we lock you in the trunk, cover you in something so even the dogs can't sense you as they come across. Honestly, you'd be looking for asylum in Zarbarota's RS. Yep. And then we got Snowshoe Dave checking in. All right, let's bring it over to Zarbarota. I don't know, and if you're willing to do it, and Blake and I will just kind of chime in, but this is where I'll start it. If you want to say hi, tell everybody who you are, and then maybe just the background of the kits.
Yeah. So I'm Zarbarota. I'm known by many different things. I've known Mark forever, and I've become a pretty good friend of Blake's too. He's a pretty swell guy, and I can't say congratulations enough on such a wonderful accomplishment, and hopefully another great, fantastic addition, albeit chaotic as kids are. So congratulations on that. I don't know. I guess to describe myself, I'm kind of the constitutional liberty shoo-in that jumps in and out of podcast episodes every once in a while. I'm the resident nerd on that type of stuff. I mess around with firearms. I'm like Blake, except lesser to some degree.
Wouldn't go that far.
He's smarter. He's smarter in many ways. And I like to learn from him. But so I like the outdoors, and I like messing around with a lot of different things, as well as training with firearms and also some fieldcraft stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I just want to say my obligatory, as I always do, Mark, congratulations, everybody, to not succumbing to nuclear hellfire once again. Quite an achievement, world. And I'm happy to see you all here.
Way to go, Third Rock from the Sun. Now let's do it one more time tomorrow, please.
Yeah,
it's like that Simpsons meme where it's at the nuclear power plant. It's like one day without accidents, and they're taking the sign back down.
That's perfect. I didn't even think of that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess.
So on that. Okay. That's a good note. So we've already kind of talked about. So again, MILLSTONE. We're focused on self-reliance. We want to draw from our backgrounds, our experiences. We know a bunch of other people. I mean, Blake didn't kind of really say this. He's doing a lot of homesteading. We know some other people doing homesteading, X, Y, and Z. But, so with these weird, and everybody said, we are the weirdos. So if you're here watching it, you're probably, you've come to the right asylum anyway.
Welcome to the weird bus, baby.
Yeah, you've come to the right place. But so literally, literally, I don't know what it was. 3 weeks ago, a month ago, Czar, we were just bullshitting.
Like that.
Yeah, in an evening, just like we always do, because that's more entertaining than a lot
It's
of
almost how most of this happens.
Yeah.
I feel like whether it's me and you or you and Blake or whatever, and then we get a weird hair up our keisters and we're just like, oh, this might actually be worth talking about. So
yeah. So we sat and talked about this kind of general subject for about 2 or 3 hours. One night, and but it's a great, again, much more fun than going to a bar. Great conversation. I learned from Jeremy. I hope he learned a little bit from me. But at the end of the day, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Jeremy to kind of give a little bit more of the background. But as we kept talking about this self-reliance, survival kind of perspective, we just kept realizing the F-bomb just kept coming out. So that's so look, there's a gazillion people with a gazillion names, like on whatever you want to call it, 10 C's, get home. I do food, fire, water, shelter, shoot, move, communicate, medicate, whatever you want to do. But Blake wasn't part of that conversation. But before I turn it to Jeremy, Zarbarota, I was talking to Blake like, hey, I had a great conversation with Jeremy. What do you think about this for MILLSTONE? And Blake intuitively picked up on it as well. So we're not saying we invented anything crazy, but you'll see it kind of makes a little bit of, oh, go ahead, Blake.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think one of the reasons that, for me at least, this concept of an F kit, and F being a generality, is because of the greatest secret on earth, in my opinion. And that is, if you want to start thinking in new processes, if you want to start thinking through new ways of doing things, it's really easy to be able to, once you've classified something. And when we can classify something and we can put a mental framework to it, it'll allow us to be able to integrate that into what is commonly known as a mind palace. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a mind palace, it's a way of organizing your thoughts and your inner processes to be able to recall information more rapidly, to be able to know what may well be along and attached to that information. So I think that's one of the reasons this jived with me, because it's how I start all my concealed carry classes. You know, you want to really start to understand a new topic. The first thing you do is start using the nomenclature of the industry in which you're discussing, because it allows for new neural pathways to be developed so that you can focus in and not waste your time trying to learn something, because you've already learned how to speak about it. And I think that's why I like FKit, is because it has a very easy attachment that you can do to, if you've built your own mind palace, to be able to go, okay, now I have a floor that's my F floor, and in that's my F kits, and in my F kits are these pieces of gear that I know are required for each one of these. So for me, it's a Dewey Decimal System of gear, if you will. So
well, and I like what you just said, because as you were talking, and we still got to get back to the origin story with Zarbaroda, but it just made me think of another way to, and because again, that mind palace, I've done that. I can't even tell you how many times, you know, I've been trained to play the mind game for memorization and, you know, X, Y's, and Z. So I just immediately went into a friend and foe kit. Well, what does that mean? Well, what would a foe kit be? Maybe I don't want to be seen, right? You know, you put it into your mental palace, your F, you know, floor F at Foxtrot, and figure out what that means. Maybe under your conditions, your circumstances, you're trying to evade detection. That's the foe kit, maybe, you know, and you could apply that same thing from like a hunting perspective. I don't want an animal to detect me, to wind me, to, you know, to walk in me. VTech Moonwalker just said, can I buy a vowel?
yeah, it's all
that actually was the point. So yeah, again, maybe I didn't do a good enough job. I didn't realize it until just like a few days ago. I'm like, oh man, that is so close to being that, but it fits in with what we're saying, because you know, these are the kits. You don't want to be in a fuck around and find out situation, then realize you hadn't thought it through, and you don't even have from small to large. And then Redbeard, I'll turn it over to you on that for the Genesis story, and then, you know,
well, I do have to preface, and this is probably the actual origin of it, Mark. I don't know how many times you and I have had phone calls, and we're like, we kind of go on, like, I don't even know if they're schizo rants, but they get kind of autistic a little bit. And we're just like, dude, like, why does nobody ever talk about like taking care of your feet? Why does nobody ever talk about like just basic like campsite, you know, things that you should have, or like cleaning implements or whatever the case, like just basic hygiene in it? And we do, like, well, and we still do, even after post that conversation, like we still do, and we probably will well after this episode, because it's one of those things to where what it really culminated in is, you know, we talk a lot of on a lot of different subjects, but what we realize is missing out of a lot of conversations, and even if they're in those conversations, maybe they're not as highlighted as they should be, is nobody really takes a good look at sustainment in many different ways. And when you look at sustainment, there's a lot, like, you don't have to overcomplicate it, right? Keep it simple, stupid is something that I roll on. You know, I don't want to speak for these guys, but I would assume that they're in the same boat too. And when you look at something like feet, or when you look at something like fire or food, you don't want to work harder than you have to, and you want to mitigate. It's all about mitigation in sustainment. So this whole discussion was just kind of born out of frustration of like,
well, if you don't mind, if I can just say,
yeah, go ahead.
It's mitigation. It's maximum. You know, it's the same coin, two sides. You want to maximize, get the maximum effort for your calories, whatever, so you can mitigate. Yeah, I just
100%. No, that was perfect to add in there, because again, it's, how many times we've had these discussions where like, where's the actual conversation about this? And if it does exist, it seems like it's so fragmented between bushcrafters, and then you have gun guys that talk about gun things. And it's like, no, like, we're missing the bigger thing here. Like, we need to meld these things together, because each of these groups has a lot of knowledge that should be brought to the individual.
Yep.
And we each have representations, I think, tonight that will be able to kind of further emphasize what we're talking about here, and hopefully create a better understanding of the nature of this conversation. Am I right about that, or wrong, or would you guys want to add?
That's the thrust I think we're going for here. And I think you hit it on the head when you're talking about, you got these bushcraft guys or the firearms guys. They want to talk about the high speed, cool stuff because it's what people like.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how glamorous is talc powder for your foot? I mean, let's be honest, but like, you need to keep them feet dry. You need to have clean socks. It's not this glamorous, exciting, go out on the town and talk about my new gold toes that I got. That's the stuff that no one gives a crap. It's second nature to them. But the problem is when you don't seriously think about these things, how do I take care of my feet being honestly one of the most important things that we could possibly do, whether we're in a life or death situation or we're just walking down the streets. Everything we do is done on the soles of our feet, but it's not a glamorous thing. So people don't want to talk about it. I mean, and so that's I think that's why this is so important, is because it's stuff people don't want to talk about is the stuff that we really do need to talk about.
100%.
So just on that note, bringing it back over to you, Baroda. But when Jeremy and I were on the phone talking, I actually took down the notes as we were talking, and the very top one. And this isn't a ranking system, right? So a part of an F kit is you don't want to F around and find out, right? You have to be your own friend or foe, right? Again, just bringing up something I just thought of. You have to know your strengths and weaknesses, your environment, what it is you're accomplishing. We're not talking about a kit that does everything. These are very specific kits for specific things. But what Blake just brought up, I'm just trying to emphasize. Oftentimes, the things we don't think are sexy are the things that are most likely to kill us. 100%. Field hygiene, foot maintenance. I mean, like, so when we did this, and we had 6 is what we came up with the very first time we were talking. Feet, foot maintenance was the number one thing. And then after that was fire. So. Yeah, no, and just again, not a ranking system, but that's where our brains went. You know, we're like, foot maintenance. You got to be kidding me.
And just to add to that, like, what I want people to kind of keep in the back of their mind, to the front of their minds, however you want to, compartmentalize it. All of these are going to, like these two guys have already mentioned, like, it's going to be your own. So as we're going through these, you have to remember that different things are going to apply to you in your own way. And so however you want to call it, whether it's an F kit or a get home kit or whatever the case is, like, you need to make this personal to you, and you need to make it personal to your family. F kits just work for us because we had a conversation about it and we're like, oh yeah, like, this kind of just makes sense for what we're talking about. But it's important that you do personalize it to yourself and to your family and to your living situation and et cetera, et cetera. So there is some nuance there, and I think we'll get into that even more. But just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, you have to make it your own. So
hey, I just got to do this. There's some good stuff in the chat. I don't know if you guys are seeing, but I got to bring it up full screen. It's worth doing.
Oh no.
So, we left off. VTech Moonwalker was talking about, can I buy a vowel? And then we had Questview with a really good point. I mean, a friend kit, a foe kit, and then a foe, like a thing for your supposed. Now that would go into here's one. Like, you could use one of our little wallets for like that. This is this is my fake money, my fake passport, my fake ID you're throwing away. So again, depending on the environment you're operating and what you're trying to do, that actually might be something you want to make sure you have on you. Is again, you could call it a throwaway wallet or just put in your F in that mind game. The last being the decoy. And then here's where it started getting off the rails, boys, which is kind of funny. We got to do it, right? I'll try to do this in I think in the accent with which it was delivered. So Questviews is saying to VTech, at some point when things get out of control, you're not sure what to do. You have to say full kit. I think that's how I interpret it. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then Quest Views, and then John's in the house saying what's up, and then Quest Views just keeps going. Gene was like this a couple weeks ago. Apparently, it's Blackbeard. Are your feet our sole focus? I mean, I don't even know. I should probably not look at the chat anymore because it's distracting me. I prefer the uck after the F2 though. Quest, ha ha ha, and then something about color coded for everyone in the family.
It's already going off the rails.
I told you going off. Yeah, and then Gene saying you got to use markers, not crayons. Okay, all right. That's some good chat going on there. Okay, I just had to throw that out there because of the full kit. Oh, that's late.
I love it.
Well, just go ahead and full kit. Hey, so let me kind of kick it off. Well, actually, Blake, Blackbeard or Redbeard, do you want to add anything more into that origin, or Blake, do you have anything to add? Because otherwise, I'm gonna start it off with F for first aid, and
I'd say go on into it, brother.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to add anything or something before I do?
No, I mean, I think we've done the primer. We've gone over the concept of it and why we think the concept is valid, because it's going to help to be able to associate memories to it, help you to be able to better prepare. It's going to keep you on your feet. So, no, I think let's just dive into it at this point.
Okay. And boys and girls, again, we're not going to try to teach anything over here. We're just going to show some examples and give our personal experiences, anecdotes, stuff like that. We already kind of covered that at the beginning. Redbeard, you want to throw anything in there?
No, I think we're primed up and ready to go.
Okay. Well, I'll kick it off with a first aid thing, and then I think you're going to do something with firearms.
Yep.
Blake is probably going to do something with fur management, which would be another way of saying beard care or something. Maybe, I'm not sure. Yeah. See, he's a tired dad. He didn't even know.
It's just I just got done coughing, so I apologize about that.
Oh, hey, I didn't. Look, I'm a gear company. I make gear. Just use these as examples, right? They're props I have around me for my videos, but they fit in perfectly what we're talking about. So this is one of the clip DCs I make for Jack. This is actually like the very second one I ever made. I'm actually trying something a little different right now, but that's neither here nor there. But this is what I've used for 10 years or whatever it is. But as we just said, now this could be. You open it up and you see it, this could be your emergency fire kit, and you could say fire and signal if you wanted, just go and, look at those videos. This could be the faux kit that Questview Blackbeard just brought up. Have this as your, or this maybe is your real wallet because you can conceal it, and then you have your faux wallet. If you're in an environment where there's a chance that you might get pickpocketed or, I just did something weird there. Sorry, boys. There we go. Or if you think you're going to get pickpocketed or robbed, right? So this can work in a whole bunch of ways. Or if your kids are always skinning themselves, throw some Band-Aids, and Neosporin, a wet wipe or whatever. And this is like a mini boo-boo kit or a mini first aid kit. So it can be something as small as this little guy. Again, going into our other pouches, this is our belt pouch, but that is designed around survival tin. Now, this is a little fire starting survival tin. So again, I thought I was going to talk about first aid, but see how the F-bombs just coming out? This could fit in there. And you still got all kinds of room for a ferro rod or fat wood, or if you don't have that in here. So that could be something if you work or operate in an environment where hey, if you don't have a fire that night, you're in big trouble. And again, and I like somebody just said this to me the other day. I'm sure we've all heard this before, but whenever you listen to one of the big, huge names in the survival or the bushcraft world, every story of survival, every story in which there was a death or an injury, a survival related story, always begins with, I was just taking a walk, or I was just going outside. I've been saying that a long time. It's great to hear somebody kind of say that to me the other day. So whatever you want this to be, that could be fire. This could be first aid, right? So here's a SWAT T tourniquet and just a set of gloves. I could even have other things in there. There's a small mini first aid kit. You could still get Band-Aids, for a boo-boo kit, things of that nature. So that's something. These are the small type of kits that you might want to keep on your person or around your neck or, in a bag or, or a bag that always goes with you, right? Because maybe this guy, now this is a more robust style kit, right? This is the med kit we make for Black Scout survival. I mean, I made this because this is what I wish I would have had when I was downrange, right? So this is the size kit I wish I always had on my body armor. And, we made it the way I wanted it to be, Jack working with him, the deployment tab. But this is a more robust kit that if you're hiking, still should be in your rucksack or attached to the outside of your rucksack, or maybe it should be on your person at all times because of all the things you want to F around and, find out about. Not having your medical kit or your fire starting kit or your navigation kit. Those would be some of my big ones not to never want to lose. But this also can fit in your car. Now, here's the one I keep in my car. This is an old U.S. Army combat lifesaver bag. That's all really old. I got the little tape on there because not everybody knows what this bag is. And if there was an accident and I had to yell to somebody to go get the med kit out of my car, if they saw this, they wouldn't know what it is. Well, I put a bunch of orange mark. It's the only thing. And I say, grab the bag with the orange marking tape on it. And now a first aid kit's coming me, right? A larger size, because I'm anticipating I might get into a larger accident because we're on the highway, that type of stuff. Right. I mean, I hope this is all making sense. It should be. I mean, it shouldn't come as any surprise, but I do fear. I mean, look, and I don't fear, but we don't know what we don't know. And medical is one of those areas where even when, you've got to stay on top of it. Getting ready for this, I was like, man, I need to get out and do some practice. I was going to talk to you about that Blackbeard and Blake, but like, hey, we all got to get together and just even rehearse some stuff and review some stuff. Because if you don't use the skill, you lose it, right? So you don't want to forget kit. Almost done here, boys and girls. Then I know it sounds stupid, but this is, again, it's geared towards your environment. This is my shop kit. Everybody's seen one of these type of things. I mean, I'm not going to take care of like, multiple, like a mass casualty event or, multiple GSWs, but for all the stuff around the shop and then all the basic stuff like, oh, I've got a stomach ache or I've got diarrhea or I've got a headache, all your lickies and chewies in this little kit, clearly mounted in a stationary location, just like an eye wash, station or something like that for a business, because it is. And then there's another level of kit based on the types of threats, the number of people in the environment in which you're going to be operating in. Last but not least, I almost need to take a quick pause.
Well, here, if you want a quick pause, I've got an anecdote.
Just because I'm about to stand up and that thing is heavy. So I'm kind of like, all right, even just that hurt a little bit. So yeah, why don't you, and I'll look at some comments and see if there's anything, and then I'll do my very last first aid thing.
So I was actually just watching one of my preferred YouTubers that me and my wife enjoy, which I'm sure most of you guys here probably know, but MRE Steve 1989. I'm sure a lot of you guys watched him before. And one of the videos that got recommended to me the other day by him, which it was actually super cool, it was a Vietnam era medical kit that was for special forces. And I don't know how he got his hands on them. I mean, they were still wrapped up in the original green duct tape and all that. And it was really kind of cool, actually. So take the green duct tape off and you open up the lid and it folds out 4 arms. And inside of there on a heavy type of butyl glue inside of blister pack was all of your medications you'd need. I mean, anything from hydromorphone to Imodium. And the thing that I found the most interesting in, because that's one thing, if you've read medical stories about war that reoccurs constantly, there were 4 times as many pills of Imodium as there was any other medication inside the kit. And that's one of those things. So speaking of F kits in general, everything I build, whether it's for my feet, whether it's for my firearm maintenance, whether it's for something in the vehicle, is completely irrelevant. Every kit I make has Imodium in it.
Well, now that we know that some about Blake's GI issues, or hang on, that's like his kryptonite. We now know the weakness to the man.
But it's not a new weakness. It's actually a currency. So one of my other favorite little stories is in World War II, there was a paratrooper that fell behind enemy lines and actually traded his scripts of Imodium that he was issued before he jumped out of the plane to a local Frenchman who was, I would imagine, in a quite prone position. And he ended up getting food, supplies, firearm, and a motorcycle with fuel enough to be able to meet up with his battalion because he traded one script of Imodium.
again, it is a commodity, especially in
Yeah.
an environment or under
Yeah.
circumstances where, like, even finding aspirin is going to be,
Mhm.
difficult to do. So, and not to, but not, I guess, to use that as kind of a pause, but I'm going to segue back over to my final kit, which is my, like, no shit, if I had a war wagon, or, like, it is my home kit. It's my range kit too. If, like, we're going to the range and we're going to be on the range for a full day, I'm not even taking the little GSW kit. I'll show you this next kit in a second. But Blake, to your point, meds, like, yeah, okay, I'm not a doctor. So, there's full disclosure. I'm not telling you to do something, do this or do that, but I don't throw meds away. I vacuum seal that shit. Are they going to be as effective? But I'd rather have and not need than need and not have. And, like, okay, I've got to take twice as many Imodiums, but at least I have Imodium, or I have, an antibacterial, or you've got a Z-Pack, or whatever it is that you're doing. So if you get your hands on that stuff, don't throw that shit away. Vacuum seal that, man. And again, it's not going to necessarily be on your little boo-boo kit on your person or the next size level kit up. Yeah. Or maybe it is, like Blake just said, because you never know, right? And if you've got the space for just a little thing that's got 2 anti-diarrhea medicines or whatever, why not? I mean, that's one of the other most common things, a little boo-boo, sniffles, and you're pooping yourself. I mean, or you get infected, or you get an infection. Yep.
And that last one kills a lot of people, man. You lose. That's why I can't stress enough. It doesn't matter what kit you're putting together. Throw a script of Imodium in it. It's a couple bucks.
All right. Before I show this up, let me get caught up on some comments. I saw him coming in. John was saying he likes the KDC for the fire kit. Yeah, that's a small micro fire kit, a fire and signal kit. Gene is sharing what he's got in his. He's got a little mini pry bar in his as well. Med wipes. Yeah, need a couple more for other kits. Hey, I know a guy, Gene. I know a guy who makes them. I do. He's an asshole, but I know the guy, right? And then we got John. Now, this is where I liked where we were going. I saw this. Yeah. He was talking about the belt pouch for a fecal kit, like a shitter kit. Gene laughed about it. VTech saying he doesn't like, doing it in the woods. And then John's talking about, wipes and Purells. Somebody was talking about not pooping in the woods, couple of that. Okay. And then I'm going to stop it right there on the medical stuff, but right where we left off right there. Yeah. Well, one of the kits, again, we're not going down a list. Maybe we'll give you as many of the F's that we can think of, but field hygiene is when Jeremy and I were having this initial conversation. Foot maintenance, because that's, and then, just as important as Blake just said, field hygiene. And to me, so unlike Blake, I think that's, again, if you can get a little Imodium in with your other little boo-boo kit, but I always want to have a field hygiene kit because one of the other things, Blake, and I know it's not as sexy, like I said, a toothbrush and toothpaste.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah, dude.
Disinfectant. Yeah, field hygiene. And and not getting diarrhea, not shitting yourself, and then knowing how to do that. So, boys and girls, we're not going to get into that tonight. You cannot. I mean, you do you. Seriously, you do you. You do you. If you want to defecate and urinate at your campsite or right next to your campsite, if you want to prep food, like you see where I'm going with this stuff. If you're doing all that stuff at a site that you're going to be at for a couple days, well, again, there's no such thing as a walk in the woods. If that couple days turns into 2 weeks, well, you could have been okay, except for that cut you got on your finger. And that got infected because you're cutting food and doing food prep right where you're defecating. I mean, like these are, so field hygiene, how you're even processing human waste in the woods and where you're doing it. Anyway, field hygiene is a huge one. So I that's why when I saw you guys doing the doo-doo wipes and stuff, I'm like, no, that's a serious kit, field hygiene kit right there. And that goes into trimming your fingernails, trimming your, toenails, taking care of blisters. I mean, brushing your teeth, avoiding infections, staying clean. I mean, that's a huge kit. Honestly, that's more important than any cool guy kit, unless you were a cool guy still doing cool guy stuff.
Preventative care.
That's just it. It's preventative care. And on top of that, other than the fact that we all need to do it, that's a hell of a morale boost if you're out in the middle of the field and you've been lost for a few days and you just got to brush your teeth, walk your feet. That's a pretty big boom. So,
I just want to add real quick. I bought some of the Duke Cannon shower wipes. And I bring them to work every once in a while because I just get covered in like concrete dust. And I'm here to tell you, like, it's no joke when it says like it's moisturizing, but it cools you off and it makes you feel brand new. Like, if that doesn't I could be in probably one of the worst situations, and you wipe yourself down and you're like, oh dude, like I'm ready to go for another 24 at this point. Like it is. And not only that though, but to what both these guys are saying, like at that point, you just took such a serious step to mitigating sickness that comes from dirt and grime, and who knows what's in the water. You never know unless you hike all the way upstream or whatever the case, or it could even be in somebody's a basement that you're working in. Like seriously, there's a lot of times where I've worked in places and you run into old sewer, and it's like, so yeah, keeping clean, like that goes so far even beyond the medical. That is the first line of defense in my opinion. So
well, when you get into staying, cold weather environments, keeping clean is the first letter in the acronym.
Oh,
cold,
yeah.
And that's, but so, I mean, keeping clean, like that should almost be a common denominator, like, just like anything. Yes, you're in the field, and, especially if you really are doing combat ops, right?
Yeah.
Imagine, and somebody just made a reference to World War I in one of the comments. Oh, World War II. But imagine World War I, World War II, just as equally,
Oh gosh, yeah,
dirty, especially like in the Pacific. But the trench warfare of World War I,
yeah,
man, your battle, I mean, you weren't as worried about the Hun. You were more worried about the lice and the, and all the other things that we're talking about. Hygiene.
The environment is the number one killer of people. There is no question about it. It is not man. It is the elements.
Yeah.
And all the that go along with it.
Well, and then I just want to do this, and then I'll show my last kit on the first aid again. And this is, I'm trying to give you an example of small to large. They all have a different application for a different environment or a different mission, or a task and purpose, if you want to call it that way. Questviews had a great comment here though too.
Yeah.
But hygiene, look, and and so I don't know if there's something like we want to call a fatigue kit or a mental fitness kit. No. But man, the moment your morale and your state of mind starts deteriorating, boy, and that can come about from loneliness, being dirty and grimy, being cold. Yeah. So all of these things can be combated with an F kit. So just think about your environment. Yeah. Here we go into my last one. And don't anyone laugh at me. I haven't told my whole story, but I'm like, I think I'm at a gallon of milk right now. So and this next kit I'm about to show you is pretty damn robust. These guys have seen it before. Again, this is the kit I always take with me when we're at the range. I don't care if we're just even plinking, like, because I remember somebody said, "Oh, it's just a 22. What are you scared of?" I'm like, "Let me shoot you in the head with that. And tell me what you do." It's just a 22.
No big deal.
Yeah, just a little boo-boo.
Right? Yeah, little buff out,
All right, so I hope this is going to show. I might have to maneuver some stuff, but this is a no shit, like, large. Now, I didn't get it in orange, and now when I bought this, I was still kind of a cool guy. In hindsight, I wish I would have had this in orange. Now
what's coated in orange then, Mark?
Well, hey, if I only knew a guy who knew how to Cerakote. Hey, if you want to do, seriously, if we want to do that and do something cool, if that's a project.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm all about it. Let's coat it up, man. That's cool as heck.
Offline. Maybe it doesn't have to be all orange. Maybe we do it like that distressed orange.
We could do distressed or pinstripes. There's all sorts of things we could do with it.
But so all I'm just trying to do here is, I don't know, can you guys see? So like,
that
is, I was afraid that had to stop right there. But this med kit right here, I don't know if I'm still, people at home are like, what kind of shit show podcast did I just come into? That happened.
Good night, baby.
Yeah. Welcome to the party, pal. But no, like there's almost nothing that I can't do in that med kit. And I'm talking, well, again, I can intubate, I can, do sutures, I can do staples. I mean, I can rebreathe, splints, again, so that's an incredibly robust, no shit kit, right? And I used to have all that training, but again, here, I'll throw myself under the bus because I don't want to FAFO. We need to do a little bit of refresher training, just on some stuff. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, seriously. If
That's
you
your
guys and if
NSMK.
you guys are willing to let me give you guys IVs and stuff, I'm willing to do that too, because that's been a little while. You know, I've done them to myself before, but it's been a while since I've given somebody else an IV. All right, here we go. Just last comments. I'm going to turn it over to you
I
guys.
could use an IV.
What was
I
that?
said after these last 2 weeks, I could use an IV, man.
You honestly, you
Yeah.
probably could. Seriously,
Yeah.
I'm not even joking, right?
Not either.
Yeah. Questview, we left off Questview saying hygiene kit, Gene saying a morale kit. Like, so again, call it a fun kit, a family kit. That's what I had written
We
down.
talked a little bit about that last night, Mark. Yeah.
Well,
Game.
here, why don't you talk about that right there?
Well, and that was kind of the ones the fun kit. Mark hit it on the head. I mean, morale is such an important thing in the field, especially if you've got little ones, if you've got a family that needs entertained, something along those lines. I mean, you cannot underestimate the impact that a little bit of rest and relaxation can give you, especially in a high crisis situation. You know, if you can sit down with your wife and play a game of cribbage out in the middle of nowhere while things are rough, that's going to be 15 minutes that you're thinking about cribbage and you're not thinking about how bad things are. You know, you got some cards, shoot, get a book with it. There's thousands of card games you can play. I mean, these kits don't have to be very big. Paul, who's been on here several times before, he talks about his fun kit. I don't know if that's the term he uses, but he has these little micro board games of like Sorry and Monopoly and things to keep the kids entertained. Like that is, I mean, not only is that so important in the morale situation if things were bad, but like, let's say, for instance, maybe you're in an actual no shit life or death situation and you've got kids that don't understand that, hey, this is life or death. And you need to keep them occupied while you can focus on something. That might save your life, even though it's just a little board game.
Yeah.
Well, and then let's just be honest. I mean, back to morale, you know, it's through games, through human interaction that we let down our guard a little bit and we better communicate with each other. It could even just be another way for you to break the ice and get a conversation going about the shitty thing that you just experienced, or the fact that daddy, okay, I'm getting tired. This is getting old and I'm cold. Why can't we just go home? Well, son, because we're lost, you know, and you might not just want to break that on them right away. Right. So having that little fun kit, you know, again, that morale, that way to, I mean, you got to do it, or having that person around there who, you know, who's holding up the shield, you know, and the arrows are smacking at it. And he looks at, you know, and he was like, you had to say it, didn't you? What was that? Fight in the shade? Or, you know, like, or the good Lord says he can take, or the good Lord says, the good Lord says he can take care of me, but he's pretty sure you're
fucked.
You're fucked.
Oh man, you know, we keep I'm not gonna go down that path right now. Never mind.
Hey, but just on that note here, let me just do this. John's adding some comments. Well, everybody's been adding comments that I think help to the conversation, but this is maybe a good one. I don't know these guys. Grim Workshop makes a deck of cards that has survival information on every card. Yeah, cool. So there you go. Now you've got a deck of cards that you can play games with, but it's also something like, shit, I forgot to tie it. I don't remember how to tie an end of the line bull in, or how do I make a Canadian jam knot again? You know, whatever it is you're trying to do. A lot of those card decks have that information. And look, if you can keep your head about you to, you know, to still be able to read the card, process it, and then not be so freaked out and then do it, then that's a great learning tool, right? You know, because it might just be, oh, fuck, yep, now I remember how to do it. And then, you know, and as Jeremy, and this is maybe a good segue over to you, because I think you see where I'm coming, because mitigating how much time you're spending doing these things and how much time, as Blake is saying, that you're maybe spending freaking out about stuff, you want to minimize that.
Yeah. And just to kind of catch the tail end of what both of you guys said, like, I am a huge proponent anytime I've ever done, you know, even just weekend camps or hikes or however long my expedition is, like, I am the type of person to where I will pack. I love coffee. My life runs on coffee. I think both of these guys know that. I have a problem, admittedly.
But it has nothing to do with coffee.
But possibly, yeah. It was a defect in the manufacturing plant. I'm sorry. But coffee, and what I like to pair with coffee is cocoa. I love pairing hot cocoa with coffee, or just having it just to cook over a fire or whatever it is that you have. Like, it's little things like that. And you know, you don't have to bring a ton of it, but look, use it when you're starting to have like doubts or when you're starting to have a rough time. It has that same type of effect as like taking one of those wipes and cleaning that dirt off. Like it's just the idea of like, oh, that was really good. I want more of this, so I want to make it another day. Like I want to be able to go farther. And
hey, Jeremy, before you go any further, just I want to highlight that because maybe you have a food kit, right?
Yeah.
Or again, however you want to come up with a fun kit. But to Jeremy's point, I just want to emphasize that don't take that for granted. You heard some people call them, I think, maybe this is not quite the same way this phrase used to be used. But if you think of like an iron ration, a survival tin, in there, you've got 2 Jolly Ranchers, 2 things of bouillon and a pack of Coke, like what Jeremy just saying, because just even those little brew ups or that little licky and chewy, to what Jeremy, I just wanted to emphasize that. That was
and look, if coffee or cocoa is not your thing, like the beautiful thing is like a lot of tea comes in very, very compact packets. So like you could put tea in there or whatever the case is. Like there's so many options. And I like to have something warm to drink, whether I'm waking up in the morning or whether I'm going to bed at night, especially if I know it's going to be a cold night. And Mark and Blake, I know you guys both know all about that. You've been in the forest enough times. But it really does affect things. And as much as I am not a fan of the company personally myself, having a Hershey's bar or any chocolate bar or candy, like Mark kind of brought up, like, look, it does go a long way. And so you got to figure out what those little things are for you and definitely put them or stash them away in your kit whenever you go somewhere or whatever the case is, because it can really make or break a situation for you, no matter how bad that situation is. It could be the reason you survive another.
I was going to say, that cup of hot cocoa sitting around a campfire in the morning before you broke camp might be the reason you had the chutzpah in your ass to get up over that mountain to go get rescued.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like
I got a quick question for you guys. So, I'm kind of coming up. Maybe there is the ultimate kit and maybe it's full of all kinds of little micro things because we've already talked about micro medicines like the Imodium. Now we're talking about like a little bit of tea or a little bit of like a dark chocolate or
something to get you going.
Yeah, so like this is the no shit, break in case of emergency. But what would we call that? What were the little people in Gulliver's? Were they Fromy Lupins or something like that? Or did that?
I know what you're talking about. I
think that's close, Mark. I actually think that's pretty.
I think it might. If they start with an F, then that's the name for a kit because again, things we haven't talked about. How about a small razor blade? How about a P38 can opener? How about a Fresnel lens? There's a bunch of really small things that cover a wide spectrum of shit. And that becomes that is your no shit FAFO kit. That's your iron ration. And it does a little bit of everything type of thing.
The Lilliputans.
What is it?
Lilliputans of the island of Lilliput.
It doesn't start with an F. Can we call them?
No, it doesn't start with an F, unfortunately.
Yeah, let's call them Philly-Putans or something. But all right, Redbeard, but I was hoping that would set you up. Because what I'd like to do, we're going to probably go just a little over an hour. Let's try to keep, again, boys and girls, we're trying to keep the loadouts an hour. Well, we're definitely going to try to keep those stupid Cialis After Darks to 2 hours because I'm too old for 4 hours. And some of the other people here who were a part of that chaos and confusion know exactly what I'm talking about because they suffered it too.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to throw something in because you touched base of another one of those items that I would put up on the level of Imodium for the amount of importance to have in every kit. And that's a razor blade. Yeah. Coming from a guy that literally uses a razor blade 10 to 15 times a day for a different thing every single time.
Yeah.
They are one of humanity's greatest inventions is a razor blade. They're lightweight. They're small. They pack in, put some tape over the edge, keep it there. You're good to go. Like every single kit, even if it is again for your feet, it should have a razor blade in it. Cause I don't know about you guys, but sometimes you got to lance your feet. Sometimes you need a sharp, clean razor blade. Like there is an immense amount of things that you won't even know what all you need.
Hey, just slow it down a little bit. But so that to me, again, so if you're out in the woods, there's a bunch of these kits you need to have. And if you're carrying a firearm kit, but if you're going out in the woods, even again, just for a day, you better have some kind of field hygiene kit. And Blake, to your point, that has got to be in there, or that's got to be in your first aid kit, like,
Or should be an
and just my last comment to get everybody in trouble. I hate these guys, countycom.com. They've got all kinds of really cool small razor blade, surgical blade. I mean, we're talking again back to the micro, what Baroda was saying. I mean, really small ones where you could throw in a tin like this with a whole bunch of other things. They've got some really good stuff, especially on that end right there. So sorry, Blake, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I mean, and to the point of like the razor blade kit. So, and this might be similar to the company you just brought up, but there is a lot of companies out there that specialize in EDM cut business cards. So like a business card that's an entire fishing kit, or a business card that is everything you need to make a spear. You just got to put a shaft on it.
Yeah. So just right there, just John, who's here, Gimli, he brought up a company a couple times ago. I think that's the same company he brought up tonight, Grim Workshop.
Okay.
They make all kinds of those survival cards you're talking about, where you're literally, here's like 5 different fishing lures, here's a razor blade, so there are companies that make those survival cards that can provide a lot of that, and we shouldn't get away from it. Knives, sharp things, things that go cut, are important to have. But before we go too far and bring it back over, I mean, VTech's got a good point. So again, you can't forget to use this thing in between your shoulder blades, because as he says, a razor blade is great, like a lot of other things, until you lose your dexterity, until until you're starting to come down hypothermia, your fingers are cold, maybe you got second stage frostbite. Then the smaller things, that's why it's gross motor skill.
Bingo.
And that's why you have to have multiple layers, multiple levels, I think. But great point, VTech, for bringing that out.
I'm just here to say,
I've got scars all over these hands from using razor blades without anything other than themselves.
I've had the distinct pleasure of having woken up on very cold mornings on camps, and I'm here to tell you, just because you think you have a really good plan for keeping your fingers warm, and you realize that there's just certain things you can't do with gloves on, or whatever the case is, like try starting a fire, and in the back of your mind, I every single time when it's super cold, there's a clock ticking down. I'm like, first off, it's exposure. Second off, I'm gonna start losing, fine motor skills, and then it goes down to very gross motors. And it's like you have to be on top of it when you're going to do this. And that's why, like, I'm not telling people to go, like, don't put yourself in an adverse environment, but like if you can do it in a manner that's not going to like expire you, is the best way I'll put it. Like I've done several times, and there's always inherent risks. It's like, it is one of those things of training that like is life-changing, because you realize like that really shows you all of your flaws, and it shows you how, the strengths that you have, your weaknesses, what you did right, what you should have brought. But always make sure that you have a redundancy if things go wrong, because they always do. And it's better to train in an environment where
Murphy gets a say in this. Mother Nature gets a say in it.
100%.
Yeah, that's your back. Hey, I just want to add to that, because I like what you just said there. Now, again, everybody, you do you, but I just want to give a slightly different example. And then Redbeard and Blake, will have to figure out how we end this here, if we want to just cut it off and we just do some of the other stuff later. But just to Redbeard's point, Zarbarota's point, don't be afraid to get out there and practice, and level up. When I was scuba diving, so I don't know, I think I got 50 some dives. I'm not a huge, I'm nothing anything cool, but I got a few dives under my belt, and and past my initial certification, I only went another 10 feet, unit of measure, however you want to say it, right? Atmosphere. But I only did that when I felt comfortable to self-rescue at that level. I think my deepest dive, honestly, is like 62 feet. That's probably my deepest dive. and I'm gas. I can do mixed gas and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, I'm not going to be comfortable at this until I'm comfortable at this. So that's a diving way to try to maybe get to Baroda's example of like, just go in your backyard or 5 miles away from home and you know how to get home. And that, you know, like I don't have permission to say this person's name. This was like maybe 7 years ago on when Instagram was still kind of cool. A guy was in his backyard with his kids and he was teaching them this stuff, what we're all talking about. And everybody, and he wasn't hiding it. He was in his backyard doing it. It was as obvious as obvious. And people were giving him shit. And it was like, what? So he, you know, you're mad at him because he wasn't faking it like he was on a mountaintop after like you guys are like, no, he's teaching his kids in a controlled environment. And that's where 100%. I kind of want to, it's like, so, because I know Blake is going to want to get in this. And Baroda, you kind of started it. Challenge yourself. But you know what, in the military just jumps out in an airplane the first day in the military. You know what I'm saying? Like
they jump off of the patio basically at first.
Yeah. Well, you know,
And I was actually going to say that to the point you were making, Jeremy, and it's a perfect one. You were talking about you ever woke up in a cold camp and then tried to go get a fire started to get your coffee done. Yeah, you know, so here's a really easy thing that pretty much everybody.
But they do that and take a step back and say, holy shit, that was difficult. And your life wasn't even in jeopardy on the line. I was
going to say, so I mean, as I know most of our audience is Western audience, that means you guys are all in a cold environment right now. So I'd say the next weekend you wake up, make your coffee on a fire outside. Like seriously, get out of your warm bed. Don't get dressed properly because you're now like, oh, I got to have this fire going to get warm, and just go outside and make a fire in your front freaking yard and try to make your coffee on it while you're freezing your ass off when you just came out of your warm bed. And tell me that that's not a hard thing to do in the best of circumstances.
Oh, it is.
Hang on. I'm about to ruin this though with that National Lampoon, the brother-in-law who's in his like piece long johns with his sorrel boots and that goofy hat. Shitter's full. So do that and freak your neighbor out. I mean, but so we're having a little fun, lighthearted. But it's a damn good point though. Yeah.
And
don't be totally prepared, and then you'll realize how much you need to be better prepared.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like, this is actually a really good segue for my particular kit, because I have something in my kit that I feel is pertinent, because I have a firearm kit, right? It's and Mark and Blake know this, like, to me, again, it's keep it simple, stupid. Don't overthink basic things that'll keep you running and that aren't going to be more than they need to be. For me, if we're ready to go into this part quick, Mark, I can.
Well, here's the deal. We're at an hour and 2 minutes because we could save this for another time, because I actually was going to do something small on even just something as stupid as flashlights, right? You need to see things because we're not freaking nocturnal animals. So we want to can you do it quick, or is this going to be?
Yeah, I can do mine pretty quick. And I can give
and then we'll wrap it up after that then. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead. So the first thing that you'll notice is I am.
Hey, Redbeard, start all over, because our crosstalk probably just made that really complicated. So just start over.
So I have something that actually kind of segues from the cold weather aspect of it into my firearms kits. And Blake probably knows this because it's by way of lubricant. And Mark, I'm sure you're very well aware of it too. Not all lubricants are made the same when it comes to firearms. Please read the back of your lubricants and understand the environment you're working in, whether it's very hot or very cold. And then you have stuff that works in the middle. And so part of my kit, and I want to explain why my kit is in the package that it's in, because I'm a firm believer in creating its own little environment by way of a plastic bag, or like some people, you could maybe food save it, however you want to do it. It doesn't really matter. Go ahead, Mark.
Buy one of my pouches. Thank you very much, Redbeard. I appreciate the plug.
And I'm here to tell you that it does find a home.
I already have a faux pouch. Apparently, I thought I had a friend pouch, but apparently I have a faux pouch, Blake.
And to be quite honest, I would much rather negate as much of the environment as possible inside the pouch as an extra layer of protection just to enhance what's already there. And Mark's got a really damn good pouch, to be honest. He really does. He's pretty good.
We'll let it slide, Blake. We'll let it slide.
Yeah.
It was an okay recovery. 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not an Olympian, so what can I say? But I'll take stuff out, but you can kind of see it's very basic. It's not anything too crazy. And the first item that I'll bring out, and Blake, you probably know exactly what this is, but it's a certain type of CLP, and it is rated to -48 degrees all the way up to 500 degrees. That's a big deal, especially where we live in Minnesota, because, pardon my French, it gets fucking cold here. And this is what I use versus just about anything else. People have their own options. There's a lot of different options out there. I personally like CLP. It's always worked for me.
Well, and when you get too cold and CLP doesn't work, you clean your entire gun and you go over to Teflon dry lubes or graphite lubricants or things like that. And knowing the limitations of your operating platform and the environments in which you're operating.
100%.
Well, so hey, I hate to say this, guys, seriously. You know, Jeremy, I don't think we should skim over this. I don't think we should try to do it fast. I mean, if you want to just show everybody, because I think we actually should talk about this, because, you know, again, boys and girls, like I've got a home kit, you know, like, and maybe we should do that. Leave us a comment. I mean, well, here, how about this as a group consensus? Because we're at an hour, we're already over. Does that seem fair? Maybe this is another one of the items, the issues we can bring up in the next Millstone Monday.
Well, and I'd be all about that, because I mean, now we're in my wheelhouse talking about this stuff, man. I could bore you all to death for 3 days talking about the finer differences between lubrication.
Well, I see, but that's it. That's why I don't want to skim over it, because that's not boring people to death. Everybody operates in a different, in different environmental conditions. I'm here to tell you, you know, from Arctic light to northern Minnesota, wherever you are, this stuff matters. So, and that's why I'm kind of saying, I almost think we would do it an injustice, or we're going to be here for another hour. I mean, and even if we're here for another hour, that's still going to be weird, and it's going to feel a little rushed, because that wasn't what we intended to do.
Sure.
Yeah. Gene even said, Gene weighed in. Hey, you know, when God dang it, what's that? His icon's name again? Ric Flair. When Ric Flair weighs in, you got to go with it. That's my vote. He's saying in a different episode.
I think that's fine. I think that's a great next episode, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Czar Baroda, are you okay with that?
I'm totally okay with that.
International agreements, if we put that off till the next time. And
I'm totally agreeable with that, because there's a lot that goes into
justice if we do it that way. Yep.
Well, I mean, and that's the other thing. One of the things I would like to talk about, and just a little primer to it, is then how do you change the properties of the lubricant you have on hand to work in the environment you are? Because, you know, there are thinning agents that a fella can add to that will allow it to work in a better environment. You know, I mean, so there's a lot we can dig into that kind of stuff.
Well, and then when we get into environments, that's also, you know, your operational environment, right? Are you out hunting, or are you doing combat operations? Something I never traveled without when I was doing this for real was a spring kit. So I think we need to slow this down and actually give it the justice it deserves.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Let's do that then.
Yeah, you're out there doing weapons maintenance and you lose a spring, and your combat in effect. You know, you got to have spring kits, because no matter how careful you are, shit happens, right? Murphy, dust storm. Next thing you know, you're getting mortared. You know, that's never happened before, right?
I hope to God I'm never in that situation.
Well, there, and Gene here, and just on that note right there. But this is why we have to do it, because this will come up as well. Gene just mentioned O-rings. Yeah, so there it is. So Ric Flair has spoken. We're doing this as a separate episode. Whether that's going to be the next episode or the one, we'll decide. But we'll do this another time.
Talking about O-rings allows me to talk about my next favorite thing after lubrication, and that's solvents.
Ooh.
I thought you were maybe talking about, you know, what you just experienced for having a cold for the last couple of weeks.
Oh gosh, language. Literally, like, I keep using this term. I have moved out of the stage of languish into exhaustion, and I'm a happy man for it. So
it's just inaudible noises at this point.
Dude, it's
guys, let me take charge. Let's start wrapping this up. I'm going to give you guys a chance to chime in, make your final comments. but Phil is here with us from over on the Twitter side. And well, obviously we love anyone who's coming over from Twitter or Rumble, but I'm pretty sure, John, if you're still here. So Phil, if you don't know it, you are the winner chicken dinner for the for one of the well, this one doesn't have the tabs on top. This is the real version of the Mini E is going to have the tabs on top. And John was the winner. In case you didn't see that, I got to reach out to you, Phil, over on Twitter, or send me an email, you know, or whatever. We got to get in touch, because I'm going to make you one, because we used John's name, but we didn't want it to seem like impropriety or preference. So then John did another contest. You responded to it. And even though you responded over on Twitter and people may not have seen it over on YouTube, John picked your answer as the winner. So
nice.
So Phil, if you're still here, let's contact each other. Shoot me a text or something on Twitter or X, excuse me, or an email, and then I'll figure out what pattern you want and all that stuff. And then I guess you owe John a beer. You owe Gimli a beer because he gave it away. But and then last comment, and then I'm done, because I don't know. I don't remember where we were for Gene to have said this. He's saying to you, Blake, specifically, after 5 children, I know that feeling.
He was talking about language exhaustion. And Gene, I tell you what, brother, from a kindred spirit across the pond, my hat is off to you, man. Having children, best thing ever. In the same breath, most exhausting thing ever. Excuse me.
All right, let's bring in a Tsar Baroda, and then Blake, you can take us out here tonight. Hey, thanks everybody for watching. We'll let Blake take us out, but God bless you guys. We're gonna do well. We already said it. If you don't know what we're talking about, go watch the beginning of the video. Tsar Baroda, give us your outro, and then Blake, you take us on all the way out, sir.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the big things for any of this is really keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Literally, it's going to be the simplest things that are going to typically be the most effective. Mark and Blake and myself, we've talked about this quite at length, I would say, and I think most of us are in agreement about that. Whether it's a kit or whether it's a skill set or whatever, we always go back to the things that are simple, that make the most sense, that are the most effective. And that's because there's a reason for it. Not just because it works, but if you even want to get historical about it, the simple things obviously are the most effective. So, if we want to get into that a little bit, like hygiene, right? Hygiene stopped a lot of problems some moons ago, and I'm just saying, don't overthink things. Keep it simple. Make it personal to you. Okay, that's the other thing. Make it personal to you. What works for you isn't always going to work for somebody else. So make sure you're doing what you need to do for yourself. And on that, I'll leave it over to Blake. But yeah, just keep it simple. Keep it personal. Don't overcomplicate it.
Well, and I think that's really it, Jeremy. You want to know what the greatest invention in human history is? It's antiseptic. It's being able to keep ourselves clean, being able to stop the great killer of humanity in its tracks. And that's really kind of what we focused in on tonight, is that primer of F kits, how to start kind of focusing your mind into these sorts of mentalities and how to associate and how to tie into your mind palette. But what I'm going to leave you with here tonight is what I feel is the thrust of Millstone, and it's what I try to leave you with every night. We are doing this because we are trying to share knowledge that we have in the hopes that maybe it will be something that saves your life. We hope that you have knowledge that you can share with those in your community that maybe shares or saves their life. What our goal is,
or me, or us, my life. Yeah,
absolutely. What the thrust of Millstone is and will always be is community development and community building. And I don't talk about that PR bullcrap that we see that makes you feel good on TV about pulling the community together and help each other. I know we're talking about the set it aside, dirty work that it takes to actually build and flourish in a community. And we can't do this on our own. We can't do it by ourselves. We need each other to do it. So my challenge to everyone, as my challenge always is at the end of these, is go find like souls. Go find those that believe the same things you do. build that community, pull together with those that you love, that you can trust, and be prepared for whatever may come. Because the one thing that is promised to us in the end of times is that we will all die and that we will meet our maker. And it is a matter of what we do with the days that we are given that defines who we are. So try to be the best version of you that you possibly can.
Amen, brother. On that note, boys
banger.
and girls, thank you for joining us here tonight. Over on the first Monday of every month is the Millstone Monday, keeping it at 1800 Central Standard Time. May that become the only time. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Thanks for Redbeard, the czar, to take the time out of his busy schedule. Share some stuff. We're going to do this again because the kids. And we didn't, again, I showed you a little bit tonight, but there's so much more. We're going to keep doing it again. If you want, go back, watch the beginning of the video. You'll have a better understanding. Blake, as always, thanks to hats off to Blake, boys and girls. Congratulations to Blake and his family for their future development. And I mean, I think his comment just kind of nailed it right there. So last comment, Thursday is now the Cialis After Dark. So what used to be the Loadout Live is now Cialis After Dark. So this Thursday, Cialis After Dark. That also is at 1800 Central Time. We'll see you there. Fellas, final comments. Otherwise, we're no Minnesota goodbyes, and I'll take us out.
Godspeed.
Got nothing.
Well, I almost feel like if we don't stall for another, and I'm doing it intentionally for a Minnesota goodbye comment from
God dang it.
Yeah, seriously, I want Quest views to go, oh, here we go again. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us here tonight. God bless you, each and every one of you. Stay frosty for what, where we are. Stay vigilant and be prepared, right? Be self-reliant. I know, scary words, but shouldn't be. Should be kind of the norm.
I was going to say, no one's coming to save you.
There you go. All right.
All the more reason to keep it uncomplicated.
Yeah, right.
Amen to that. Yeah.
You are the person that makes your life.
See, now we just proved Questview right, and we just turned it into a Minnesota goodbye.
Minnesota goodbye, baby.
Note, the 3 Minnesotans are saying goodbye. We'll see you the next first Monday of next month for our next Millstone. All right, everybody, be good. God bless. We love you. We'll see you again soon. Take care.